Pinocchio. A long time ago, in small town, there lived an old toy maker named Geppetto. He used to make wooden toys and sell them. One day he decided to create a beautiful puppet boy. Geppetto searched for a fine log in the forest and soon found a small pine log. He started to carve. Geppetto finally finished the beautiful puppet boy. He made him sit on a chair and started to clean up. He heard a strange voice, and he saw the puppet dancing and talking. Geppetto took the puppet in his arm and named him Pinocchio. Geppetto and Pinocchio started to have happy times together. It was time for Pinocchio to go to school, but Geppetto didn't have money to buy Pinocchio his school stationery. So, he sold his old coat and gave the money to Pinocchio. He took the money and went to school with joy. Suddenly, he saw a crowd ahead. He slowly managed to make his way to the front to find what it was. He saw a big colorful tent. It was a circus tent. Pinocchio gave money to the clown and entered the circus. The circus owner saw him dancing in the crowd. He got hold of him and locked him in a cage. Pinocchio started to cry, regretting his mistakes. Suddenly a fairy appeared and released him from the cage. She gave back his money and warned him not to make the same mistake again. Pinocchio was on his way to school again. Seeing Pinocchio with money, the cunning fox and his friend Cat stopped him and asked him where he was going. Pinocchio said he was going to buy some school stationery. The fox said, "This money is not enough to buy it. Give your money, let's plant it in the magical garden and get more money." Poor Pinocchio gave his money to the fox. The fox and the cat left the place. He was standing alone for a long time. The fairy appeared and asked Pinocchio about the money. Pinocchio said, "I kept my stationeries at school." As soon as Pinocchio finished his sentence, his nose started to grow. The fairy asked him, "Are you telling the truth?" As Pinocchio kept on lying, his nose started growing. Finally, Pinocchio realized his mistake and told what happened. As he told the truth, the fairy brought his nose back to normal. She said, "I am forgiving you because you told the truth and gave back the money the fox had taken," and she once more warned him not to waste his money. Pinocchio started to walk, and on the way, he saw the circus owner. He was very angry with Pinocchio. He wanted to punish him. He caught Pinocchio and threw him into the sea. Pinocchio started to swim toward the shore. Suddenly, he was swallowed by a giant whale. Geppetto was worried about Pinocchio and went out to search for him. He heard from the fisherman that Pinocchio fell into the sea. He was so worried. He borrowed a small boat from the fisherman and went into the sea. In the middle of the sea, a big wave hit the boat, and Geppetto fell into the sea. He was old and did not know how to swim, but he drowned. At that very moment, the big whale that swallowed Pinocchio swallowed Geppetto too. He went straight into its stomach. He saw Pinocchio crying there. Pinocchio hugged Geppetto in tears. He said sorry for not obeying him. Suddenly the fairy appeared and rescued them. After that, Pinocchio became a very clever boy and always listened to his father. He went to school every day, and after school, he ran home to help his father in his workshop. The fairy saw what a nice boy Pinocchio became and decided to give him a prize. The fairy cast a spell and turned Pinocchio into a normal boy. Seeing Pinocchio as a real boy made Geppetto very happy. Pinocchio never lied again, and his nose always stayed where it was. Belling the cat. Once there was a big warehouse where bags of rice were stored. Many rats were living in the warehouse. There was a stray cat that often came to the warehouse for his food. The cat would silently come there, without any sound, and chase after the rats and eat them. Every day that cat comes and hunts down the rats. All the rats were very frightened and decided to have a meeting. They all gathered together and started their discussion. The rats were very confused and couldn't able to think of any solution to stop the cat. Suddenly a rat said, "We should tie a bell around the cat's neck. If they tie a bell around the cat's neck, The rats can hear the sound of the bell if the cat comes. Every rat thought that it was a great idea. But in the end, a rat asked, "Who will tie the bell around the cat's neck?" Moral of the story: most things are easier said than done. It is easy to propose impossible remedies. Gulliver's Travels. Lemuel Gulliver was from Nottingham, England. He studied medicine at Cambridge and then became an apprentice to a surgeon in London. Gulliver used his spare time to learn about navigation and mathematics. He believed that one day he would visit distant places. He got married and worked as a doctor. Feeling bored with his life, he decided to travel. His dream became a reality when he met Captain William Pritchard and joined him on a voyage to the South Seas. However, their voyage ended when they encountered a ferocious storm that caused the ship to capsize, and many crew members died. Miraculously, Gulliver managed to swim ashore. Weak from exhaustion, Gulliver fell into a deep sleep. He woke up to discover that he was tied down to the ground. A group of small humans, called Lilliputs, had captured him. They provided him with food and water, and he slept through the night. The Lilliputs built a massive car to transport him to a disused temple near their capital city, where he was chained up. However, Gulliver managed to gain their trust and became an integral part of their society. One day, the emperor's secretary informed Gulliver that the empire needed his help. The neighboring kingdom of Blefuscu had assembled a large fleet of ships, and Lilliput was threatened by invasion. Gulliver had promised to help defend them. He devised a plan to tie together the Lilliput's great warships and tow them back to Lilliput. He was equipped with ropes and set off across the channel to reach the enemy fleet. The Blefuscudians were terrified and jumped out of their ships to save their lives. However, the archers fired several thousand arrows at Gulliver, who managed to fasten 50 of their finest ships and tow them back to Lilliput. The Blefuscudians were left in a state of grief and despair and sued for peace, and the war ended. The Emperor of Lilliput planned to kill Gulliver as he had not managed to capture all the enemy ships. Gulliver was warned by one of the Emperor's courtiers of Lilliput's plan to kill him. He escaped to Blefuscu and was welcomed by their king. While walking along the shore, Gulliver spotted an upturned boat in the sea. He convinced the king to help him repair the boat, and after a month, it was ready. The king fully stocked the boat with food, and Gulliver set sail north, eventually being spotted by a merchant ship. The captain agreed to take Gulliver home to England. Once upon a time there lived a poor man and a woman, who had no children and their only wish was to have a child. One evening as they were sitting on the porch, they saw a falling star and the woman said, "Let's wish for a baby, no matter how small it would be." 7 months had passed and their wish came true. A child no longer than a thumb was born. Because he was so little, they called him Tom Thumb and loved him with all their hearts. The boy became wise and nimble, but he never grew in size, so their parents were very careful that nothing would happen to him. One day the boy said to his father, "I am old enough to help with chores like all the other children do. Please, father, let me lead the horse to where you are working. I may not be big enough to lead it by the reins, but I can sit in the horse's ear and give it directions." His father agreed, because he knew that his son is a clever boy and he would manage to do the job. Tom Thumb sat in the horse's ear and kindly directed the horse, but as they were going through the woods, they met 2 strangers. The men wondered where the directions came from and went around the horse several times before they finally noticed the little boy sitting comfortably in the horse's ear. "Good Lord," the strangers exclaimed, for they had never seen such a little boy before. "Where are your parents?" they asked the boy, and Tom Thumb pointed at his father who was walking behind. "Good day. We have great news for you, mister. We will give you as much money as you wish if you agree to sell us your boy. He will travel with us on exhibitions, and we will make a fortune out of him, for never has anyone seen such a small boy." "My boy is not some jester and he is not for sale," replied the man angrily. But Tom Thumb jumped on his father's shoulder and whispered in his ear, "Listen, father, you are getting older and you won't be always able to work as hard as you do now. But if you let me go with these two men and take the money which they offer you, you and mother will finally live a good life. I promise that I will return soon." The man would always listen to what his boy had to say, as he was a wise boy, and decided to let him go. Tom Thumb sat on the rim of one of the men's hats and they left. When the men stopped for a while to have lunch, Tom Thumb slipped out of the hat and slipped into a mouse hole. The men tried to get him out of the hole by poking inside with their sticks, but all their efforts were useless, because Tom Thumb had gone deep into the hole and they could only hear his voice. "Go on your way without me, gentlemen." As it was getting dark, the men had no choice but to continue without the boy. When he made sure that the men are gone, he crept out of the hole and started looking for a place to spend the night. As he was walking, Tom Thumb bumped into an empty snail shell and quickly went inside. He got ready to sleep, when suddenly he heard voices. "How are we going to rob the pastor's house exactly?" Tom Thumb immediately understood that he had to deal with robbers and decided to save the pastor's house. "Good evening, gentlemen," Tom Thumb greeted, but the men couldn't see him. "Here, follow my voice and you will find me," he guided the robbers. "I can help you with the robbery, because I am so little and I can go wherever I want." At first the men didn't believe their eyes, but the boy paid no attention to their state of shock. "I will go into the house and I will hand out things, if you would only take me with you," he finally convinced them, and they went to the pastor's house. The minute he found himself inside the house, Tom Thumb started making a whole lot of noises. "Keep it quiet," the robbers hushed at him, but he pretended not to understand them. "What do you want? Do you want everything?" he yelled, thus making the robbery so obvious that he woke up one of the maids. She scared off the robbers, but didn't see Tom Thumb, so he finally got a good night's sleep in the hay. In the morning, Tom Thumb was awakened by a cow, which was calmly eating the hay that he was sleeping in. Before he could run away, the boy found himself in the cow's stomach. "Help! Help me eat! I am stuck inside the cow." Tom Thumb started yelling, hoping that someone will hear him. It happened that the pastor was passing by, and when he heard the voice coming out of the cow's stomach, he thought that some evil spirit had enslaved the animal, and he killed the poor cow that same day. The cow's stomach was thrown into a pile of trash with Tom Thumb inside it, so he had to find his way out of the smelling pile. He was almost out when a hungry wolf came towards and gulped the whole stomach. "Oh, heavens!" cried Tom Thumb, but he didn't lose hope. On the contrary, he decided to make the wolf bring him home. "I know a house not far from here, which is full of bacon and ham and all delicacies," spoke he from inside the wolf's belly. The wolf, interested in the idea, followed Tom Thumb's directions, and soon they arrived. The boy guided the wolf to the kitchen, where the beast started tearing a piece of ham. Tom Thumb's father heard the noise coming from the kitchen and took his axe. He told his wife, "I will chop him into small pieces with it." But right before he did that, the man heard a voice from inside the wolf. "Father, I'm in the wolf's stomach, so be careful not to kill me." His father killed the wolf and then cut him open to get Tom Thumb out of it. "My dearest boy, I promise never to sell you again, not for all the riches in the world." They give him food, drink, and new clothes, and lived happily ever after together. The musical donkey. Once upon a time, a potter had a donkey. The potter was very poor, so he didn't have enough to feed the donkey. Hence, the donkey was thin. During the daytime, the donkey used to carry loads for the potter, and at night, it was free to wander around. One night, the donkey wandered off looking for food. It ended up in a nearby field and began eating the crops. It continued for several nights until the donkey met a jackal. They became good friends. The jackal took the donkey to a nearby field full of juicy cucumbers, and they both ate their tummy full. From that night, the donkey and the jackal met every night and enjoyed the delicious cucumbers in the field. One night, after a hearty meal, The donkey said, "What a wonderful night. The moon is shining brightly, and I am so happy. I feel like singing." "No, no, my friend, you must not sing. It's not a good idea. You will wake up the farmers, and you may not like their reward." But the donkey ignored the jackal's wise advice and started singing. Hearing the donkey bray alerted the farmers. They came rushing to the field with their sticks. The wise jackal knew what would happen next and jumped over the fence for safety. But the donkey kept singing till the farmers found him. Once they did, they beat him up and chased him out of there. The donkey felt sad for not listening to the jackal's advice. Moral of the story: think before you act. We must always consider good advice. The Monkey and the Crocodile. Once upon a time, there lived a monkey in a berry tree beside the river. One day a crocodile came across the river. It saw the monkey on the tree and asked for some juicy berries. From that day onwards, they both became close friends. The crocodile would daily come back to the monkey for berries. They both would like to have lots of fun together. Sometimes the monkey would sit on the crocodile's back and go around the river. Once the crocodile asked the monkey to get him some berries for his wife. The monkey plucked some berries and gave them to the crocodile. When his wife tasted the berries, she grew curious to taste the monkey's heart. She asked the crocodile to invite the monkey for lunch at their place so that she could eat the monkey's heart. The crocodile became very sad. The next day the crocodile asked the monkey to sit on his back and started to his house. As they reached the middle of the river, the crocodile told the monkey about his wife's plan. The smart monkey said that he left his heart in the tree. The foolish crocodile took him back to the tree. As they came back, the monkey jumped off the crocodile's back and reached the tree. The monkey told the crocodile that he made a mistake by trusting him. The monkey used its intelligence to save his life, and the crocodile, because of its stupidity, lost both a great friend and sweet berries. Moral of the story: quick thinking and intelligence can beat physical strength. Staying calm and thinking can help you get out of any difficult situation. Don't underestimate yourself. There are bigger fools in this world. A wise enemy is better than a foolish friend. The Princess and the Pea. Once upon a time in a faraway kingdom there was a prince who wanted to marry a princess. Now, this particular prince was quite finicky. He wasn't willing to marry just any princess. He wanted to find a princess who was beautiful, kind, witty, charming, and, most important of all, sensitive. Sensitive? Wailed the king. How will you possibly know if your princess is sensitive until many years have passed? You don't have time for this, son. So, the prince started his frustrating search. He traveled to every part of the world by boat, on horseback, and on camel, crisscrossing the desert, climbing mountains, and crossing valleys, searching for the princess of his dreams. He looked in every country, great and small, but nowhere could he find what he wanted. Sure, there were plenty of princesses available to a prince of his stature, but it was difficult to find out whether they were real, royal ones, with all of the qualifications this particular prince sought. And so it went. There was always something about the princesses he interviewed that was not as it should be. So he returned from his exhaustive search, sad and discouraged, wondering how he would ever find a real princess. His parents were just about ready to give up and pass the kingdom on to his younger brother. One evening, as the gloomy prince was pondering his dilemma, a terrible storm blew in. There was deafening thunder and brilliant lightning, along with torrential rains and hail the size of goose eggs. The rain continued to pour down in torrents. Then in the midst of this gale, a loud knock was heard at the castle gate. When the old king opened the gate, he found a bedraggled but beautiful maiden standing there. "Hello, sire," began the maiden, who was drenched beyond belief. "I am a princess from a neighboring kingdom. I am afraid that I've been caught out in this storm and my horse has run off. I'm not able to return home until the storm ends. Could I please pass some time here? The king was a bit skeptical about this maiden's royal claims. How could she be a princess? She looked completely miserable. The water ran down from her hair and not so royal clothes into the toes of her shoes and out again at the heels. How can I be so sure that you're a princess and not an impostor, wanting to steal something from my palace? Asked the king. You'll simply have to look in your heart and decide for yourself if I am a real princess or not, answered the maiden with a soggy smile. Well, the king wasn't any too certain that this maiden was a princess, but nevertheless he found her charming, and he wasn't, after all, an ogre. The poor girl was soaking wet, so he invited her in to dry off and warm up by one of the huge fireplaces. Once inside, the king introduced the maiden to the queen and the prince. The prince, being a bit of a skeptic himself, took one look at the maiden and decided she most certainly could not be a princess. After all, she was drenched and bedraggled. No princess he'd ever interviewed during his travels had appeared like this. The queen was doubtful, too. We'll soon see if she is a real princess, she said to herself. She told the prince about her plan to test the girl to see if she was telling the truth, showing him a tiny green pea that she was going to use for her test. The prince agreed it was a very good idea. The queen went to prepare the spare bed for their young visitor. First she took off all the bedding, and then she laid a pea at the very bottom. On top of the pea she put 20 mattresses, and on top of the mattresses she put 20 feather beds. The next morning the princess was asked how she had slept. "Oh, very badly," she groaned. "I don't want to sound ungrateful, but I have scarcely closed my eyes all night. I tried everything I could think of to fall asleep, but I had no luck. Heaven only knows what was in that bed, but I was lying on something incredibly hard and bothersome. Now, I am black and blue all over my body. Oh, it was completely horrible." With these words from the princess, for now they knew she was not just a maiden but a true princess, a great cheer went up from the prince, the king, and the queen. "Hip, hip, hooray!" shouted the king. "You are the sensitive princess our son has been looking for these many, many years. Now, you and the prince can marry, and the queen and I can retire to sunnier climates." They knew without a doubt that she was a real princess because she had felt the tiny, soft pea right through the 20 mattresses and the 20 eider-down comforters. Nobody but a real princess could be as sensitive as that, they all agreed. So the prince and the princess were married in an incredibly grand celebration. The palace kitchen prepared a huge wedding feast, consisting of many dishes prepared with peas, split pea soup, cream peas, stir-fried snow peas, and even sweet pea ice cream.